Hey, it's Remco here, CEO and co-founder at Standard Ledger.
Yeah, it's John Nixon here, the R&D Tax and Grants Specialist at Standard Ledger.
We were going to talk about grants. What would you talk about?
Yeah, okay. I'll talk about the differences between grants and R&D tax because there's quite a
Hmm.
few fundamental ones, and I can rattle them off now if you like. R&D tax is retrospective. You're always talking about what did we do last financial year that qualifies, and then how much, and we calculate how much it costs, and we go through the registration process. And it's an entitlement scheme, which means that if you, like any other tax deduction, if you think that you're able to make that tax deduction, you do, and you do whatever you need to do to make that happen. You may have had also some guidance in helping you come to that decision, but that's fine. So it's retrospective and it's an entitlement scheme. They're
Hmm.
the key things.
And what are
Uh,
grants? How do grants work then?
yeah, and grants, as opposed to being tax deductions, they're actual cash money that comes in, but they're also forward looking. What you're doing is you're putting an application in to some government body, whether that's state or federal, that's running the grant program, and saying, I would like to do this project and I would like you to invest in my company by putting up some of the money.
Hmm.
At 50-50 is a popular ratio where, say you wanted to do a $1 million project but only have $500,000, you would come to the grant program for the other half.
Hmm.
So it's cash and it's forward looking and it's also competitive. So what you're doing is for that round or for that sitting of the decision-making body, they're looking at a bunch of applications at a time, and you're competing against the other companies and their projects and what they would like to do. This it's a different sort of thing,
Okay.
and this idea about being retrospective versus prospective,
Hmm.
something that gets in the way of people really actually approaching grant programs is that they're in a rush to do the thing, right? And so the process of going through the grant application, writing it, submitting it, having it assessed against everyone else, waiting for the next decision-making session, and then, even if you're a winner, then they take time to, burn it into a legal agreement. All that takes months and months, right? So, if you're doing something that qualifies as R&D, you
Months
might
and
as well
months.
do the R&D.
Ah,
Yeah.
right. And months and months in an uncertain outcome.
Correct, that's
Yeah.
right. And so you can't, so that's the other thing is that you can't really spend the grant money that they're going to give you half of it back again
Mm.
until you've gone through that whole process. So if you
Okay.
do start the project, what you think is the project, it can't be actually part of the grant project.
Right. So it's like, hey, we're going to throw something out there as an idea. It may or may not happen. But if it does happen, we need to be able to fund our 50-50.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
grants are great,
Yeah.
but they have a lot of nuances which people don't necessarily pick up on
Okay.
straight away.
So my gut feeling is there's less grants around than ever these days. All right. Yeah. I mean, where are we still seeing the opportunity for grants for companies?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's still the federal government has a flagship program which has gone through a whole bunch of name changes, and some of the parameters have tweaked slightly, but essentially it's been the same for decades,
Hmm.
and it's now part of the industry growth program, and it's just called the grant within that program. It's very what's great about it is it's very broad in terms of, again, it's sector agnostic and all that kind of thing, except for the fact that your project needs to be addressing some of the government's priority areas, and they're up on their website and people could look at
Yep.
those, or enablers of those. And so that's where some people can fit in where they don't necessarily fit into those sectors.
Okay.
So it's broad based. The great thing also about it is it's kind of, it can be for big projects. It's up to a $5 million grant. So that's a $10 million project you could be doing, and half from the government. So it's pretty good. As you can imagine, if you're going for $5 million, maxing it out, you've got to have a pretty good, set of documentation
Yeah.
and,
So that the
everything.
more you're going for, the more you need to be able to put forward. Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. But it also goes down to a few $100,000, so that's fine. And a bit, so there's also a minimum, a bit like the R&D tax incentive, which is $20,000 claim. Get too low, and it's not worth the government's time to, process your application. It's not really worth your time to go through the process either.
So that's it at the federal level, the flagship ones, all right?
Yeah.
And then you've got other grants on a state by state basis, without rattling them all off, roughly where are you seeing the opportunities?
Yeah, as you might expect, the states like Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales all have programs that kind of come and go, and they don't exactly turn them off and on, but it depends on which flavour of government's in,
The
and
government of the day and the outcomes they're trying to achieve.
correct how much money's sloshing around and all those kind of things, but they do have again fairly broad-based ones. Sometimes they have the really interesting ones that have happened in the past, and you've got to kind of keep on top of it. There can be ones which are quite narrow in their scope, but that can actually be good because if you're in scope, you're competing against less people. Right?
Inch wide, mile deep, as we like to say.
Yeah, correct. And so some of those in the past, they've even had very simple manufacturing grants, and you could even be partway down the process of procuring some new piece of equipment that's going to help you pump out more widgets more quickly and more energy efficiently, and so therefore you're going to reduce your climate footprint by whatever, and that's the kind of information you put in the application, and that's it, and you get.
So how do I find out what's out there?
Yeah, that's not as easy as it sounds. There are websites that are kind of aggregators and are run by the government, federal government. There's a pretty good one. There's one or two actually, and then there are the state government have equivalents. The individual departments have their own. They're actually the funding bodies, and so getting on all those mailing lists is something that I do, and other people do as well. There are even also paid services that can help you keep track of all this stuff.
Okay, I think that's it on grants. Thank you, John.
Terrific.